Hello, this Dr. Naiman again. This is the second video in our CMC Research Fundamentals rotation. This is going to be a broad overview of different types of research that can be performed in a clinical setting, as well as how to formulate goals for a research career, or even just in residency, how to perform a research requirement. So uh, first we'll hit the different types of research available: randomized controlled trial, prospective cohort study, case control study, cross-sectional study, case series and report. And of course, we're going to get into how to formulate your goals and achieve them in the context of clinical research. All right, so we always start with definitions when we get to this point, so it's kind of a little trite, but here we go anyway. What is research? Uh, so uh, Specifically, the scientific method is designed to counter the human brain's tendency to find a cause for every effect that it sees. Uh, and there's certain biases that exist in the human brain, and the scientific method is designed to overcome them by systematically stripping away all potential confounders until a single cause is directly tied to a single effect. So what is a randomized controlled trial? You take a representative population, and very important, this part, if you screw it up, nothing is applicable. It has to be representative to the larger population, and you randomly select that representative population into a study group and into a control group. uh, and apply the purported cause to one group and nothing or placebo to the other, and then you follow them over time. Prospective cohort study is a little bit weaker evidence. You sort representative population into groups of people exposed and not exposed to purported cause, and you follow them over time. And unfortunately, there's no way to randomize. And we'll get into why randomization is so good in another lecture, but follow me here. What is a case control study? It's backwards. You take a representative population and you find those who have the effect you want, and then look backwards to find links to a purported cause. Unfortunately, because of the way you're designing it, it is more difficult to quantify the relationship. And yes, you can also do a retrospective cohort study. That's where you look back in time with a cohort of patients, once again, grouping patients into purported cause as opposed to the effective interest, which is how case controls are formulated. A cross-sectional study looks at a single moment in time and tries to figure out who has a simultaneity of the purported cause and effect at the time of the study. That's pretty straightforward, I feel. So a case series or report is when you find a cluster of interesting cases that when you squint, you think maybe there's a relationship here, but there's certainly not enough cases to establish any sort of statistical power or even necessarily a cause and effect. Of course, one of the famous case series was the one that in 1981 found Kaposi sarcoma in young, otherwise healthy gay men in San Francisco, which ultimately led to the discovery of HIV and AIDS. So just because it's a case series doesn't mean it can't be science. So just very briefly at a glance, um, a randomized control study has minimal bias because of the effects of randomization. There's still bias, but it's as minimum as possible. A cohort study has the ability to quantify the effect you're looking for. A case control study has the ability to definitively establish cause and effect. A cross-sectional study has the ability to establish a statistical association with a purported cause and a purported effect, but it's unclear what causes what. And finally, a case series is just at the very beginning of, maybe there's actually a connection here. So why aren't all studies randomized controlled trials? Because getting better data involves increasing ethical concerns. Every time you increase the data gathering, you're increasing your intrusion into people's personal lives. And data breaches happen, and it is considered unacceptable for personal medical information to be exposed during with improperly handled research materials. Also, a randomized controlled trial puts participants into jeopardy by exposing them to an unknown intervention. So that's something that's really important to consider. Case control studies are also better for rare conditions or things that take a very long time to develop. So now, moving on to goals of your research career or just getting through research in residency. You have to think, what do you want to accomplish? And you have to be specific. You can't say, I just want to publish research. You have to figure out, I want to survey patients on injury prevention utilization and follow a 6-month period to monitor their return to the ED for potentially preventable trauma with the intent of publishing findings. So when you are thinking about what research you can pursue, you have to look at your organization and their strengths and the resources. What kind of patients present to your department? What type of illnesses do you see? How amenable would they be to being enrolled? How many of these types of patients present in a time period? What other departments can you strategically align with to conduct research? How familiar is the staff that are there with research, especially nursing staff, who will probably alert you to, hey, here's a patient. Think of your strengths and resources. What you're interested in, how much time you can commit. Do you know how to use Excel? Are you familiar with previous research on the topic? Look at the faculty at your disposal. What are they interested in? Have you discussed any of your ideas with them? Uh, Consider how much time that they can commit. And ideally, you're going to be doing the heavy lifting. So don't expect, them to glom you on with only a minimal amount of work. Once you've looked at all your strengths and resources, you have to reassess your goals and figure out, can you actually do the research or not? If not, you may have to, modify your plan or just think up a new plan from scratch. Then you'll have to perform a sample size analysis, and there are many sample size calculators. The most important part of a sample size analysis is what the magnitude of effect you're looking for. And then you have to reassess the idea until it looks like you'll be able to accomplish it with the resources at your disposal. Then you got to find a time when you can capture the most patients and commit time and get your colleagues to assist you. And once you collect all the data, you can crunch the numbers and write up a manuscript. All right. I hope that's informative. If there are any questions, you can, if you're taking the course, don't hesitate to email me. Otherwise, drop them in the comments below. The show notes has a quiz for you to take for course credit.